The law under which we live. There's probably a lot of different laws under which we live. The one I'm going to talk about today is about the reciprocal universe. My husband has written a song called Give, and the one line in it, or the opening line in it, is, what you give is what you get. Now, he also says nothing more or nothing less. And when he used to sing that in Santa Fe, a lot of Science of Mind people would challenge him. I go, oh, no, no, no. If you give, you get you get more back. I don't know, with the musician, they have to write what works. And I don't know that would necessarily work. However, the law always works, does it not? What you give is what you get. If you want love in your life, you should be the presence of love. If you want abundance in your life, even if you have nothing, you need to have an abundance consciousness. Like attracts like. And so what we have been doing through the summer, it's a 26-week-long program, I believe, is we have been doing as a group the Master Key System. And so every week we have been studying Charles Haanel's work. And every week it takes you a little bit deeper and a little bit more into what we teach here in the Science of Mind. Because I really believe if Ernest Holmes did not know Charles Haanel, and I don't think he did, because I think Charles Haanel died before Ernest moved to the West Coast. I am sure he read his work, because there's a lot of things that are said in this teaching that I'm like, oh, that is so Science of Mind, or wow, Ernest says that also. So I want to read to you what he says in his opening remarks in the Master Key System for week 15. The laws under which we live are designed solely for our advantage. These laws are immutable, and we cannot escape from their operation. All the great eternal forces act in solemn silence, but it is in our power to place ourselves in harmony with them and thus express a life of comparative peace and happiness. Difficulties, inharmonies, and obstacles indicate that we are either refusing to give out what we no longer need, or refusing to accept what we require. Growth is attained through an exchange of the old for the new, of the good for the better. It is a conditional or reciprocal action, for each of us is a complete thought entity. And this completeness makes it possible for us to receive only as we give. And he has this beautiful example that I had no idea where aphids came from. And they are parasites on roses. And if you take roses and you put them, and they did this experiment, they took roses that were living and put them in a room in front of a window and didn't feed them, so the roses died. And what happens is, then aphids, because they can no longer live off the rose, grow wings so they can fly and continue on their path of living. And I was like, wow. And it dawned on me, and maybe someone in here knows, I wonder if that's how fruit flies happen. Because, all of a sudden, if you've let your fruit go old, all of a sudden you have fruit flies. They weren't there when you bought the fruit. Right? And they only come in your house when your fruit gets old. So just something to think about. What he says, and I love this because it's important for us to know this as humans. Experiments such as these indicate that omniscience, the capacity to know everything infinitely, as well as omnipotence, unlimited power, is omnipresent, to be present in every place all the time, and that the tiniest living thing can take advantage of it in an emergency. Every single one of us has this power. It's what we teach here, that we absolutely are part of the divine, that it lives and breathes and has its existence. It has chosen to manifest itself in and through and as all of us. And sometimes that is hard to believe, right? Sometimes we doubt our faith. Sometimes we go to fear. And yet it is the truth of our beingness. And so Anne Lamott came up with the 4 immutable laws of spirit. And I loved these, so I decided to use them today. The first one is, whoever is present is supposed to be there. Right? Now, look around the room. We're all here. There are people that are not here today that have been here in Sundays past. There are people online who might be brand new. There are people online who might not have been online for a long time, or people who are normally there that aren't. And yet, who's ever there, it's perfect. And what dawned on me is how many times we pass up the opportunity to be grateful for the people around us. How many times do we go in a grocery store and we are so busy with our list, or so busy with now staying 6 feet apart, that we don't have conversations or notice people around us? And it was interesting because I went shopping with my sister-in-law, and we went to DSW, which is a shoe store at the mall, in case for some reason you don't know that. I don't know why you wouldn't, but just in case. And I'm standing next to this young woman. She's trying on shoes down there, and I'm over here looking at a pair of shoes, and she's got one of those little socky things on that you need to put on if you're going to try on shoes. And I said, "Oh, did you bring that yourself, or is it someplace in the store that you got that?" She goes, "I brought it myself." And then I picked up a pair of shoes that I really loved, except I only loved half the shoe. So let me explain. Half the shoe was like a leopard print, and the other half was not my style. And so I said to her, "Oh, I thought I really loved those shoes." I think I scared her, because she just decided she was going to go look at shoes down a different aisle. However, we need to be mindful about who we're around. I don't know how many times, me for certain, I get on an airplane, and the first thing I do is I get comfortable in my chair, and then I used to take out People magazine and I would start to read. And it wasn't that I didn't necessarily want to engage in conversation with anyone. That was my way to get through a flight, because there's a little bit of internal fear with me, and so just keep my mind busy. And so I would just read People magazine, and I wonder how many missed opportunities there were in not saying good morning to the person next to me, or striking up a conversation. So think about what she said. One of the spiritual laws, immutable laws of spirit, is the people you are with are the right people. They're the ones that are supposed to be there. It's a good lesson for ministers, because we have this habit of always wanting more, and to really just be in the perfection of, no, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. Everybody that's here is supposed to be here. And so you in person, thank you so much. You online, thank you so much, because it's perfect. It is what it is supposed to be. The second law she talks about is it always begins at exactly the right time. I don't particularly like this immutable law. I think that things should happen in Gayle's time. And what I know to be true is there is a divine right timing. And for me, what I realize is my lesson on this earthly plane is patience. And I was reminded of that. There was a meme on Facebook on 9/11, and it was honoring all of those people that had lost their lives. And it was a reminder for us to be patient. And the reminder was an opportunity to recognize those people that didn't make it to work that day and why they didn't. One lady, I believe, had broken her heel on the subway, so she stopped at a shoe store to get the heel on her shoe fixed. Another person had to stop at a donut shop because it was her day to bring donuts. One man, his wife was sick. He had to take his little boy to school. And so in all of that, I am sure, if they are like me, maybe they weren't, they were probably frustrated and like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to be late for work. We don't know when we're late, necessarily why we're late, unless we just constantly run late. We don't know why that light turned red. We don't know why we're stuck in traffic. And so it's to honor the fact that things happen exactly when they're supposed to happen. And to allow that space within yourself to recognize, wow, I'm getting really hyped up and there's really no reason for that, right? I don't like being late, so I tend to, if I'm late or not going to be on time, I tend to get very anxious and just take a breath. And now with cell phones, you can let people know, gee, I'm sorry. I'm going to be a little bit late for whatever, and it doesn't matter the reason. I'm just going to be a little bit late. And so just to honor that immutable law. The third one is whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. And I know we could challenge all of these, but I want you to think about that, because we can lay all the plans out that we want to. How many of you here and online, you can just let Karen know, had big plans for 2020? 2020, perfect vision, right? We were so excited that this year was going to roll out before us. And then 2020 decided what type of year it wanted to be. And I believe 2020 always knew what kind of year it was going to believe. And so to really have the opportunity to sit with that and to realize we could push up against everything that's going on right now, and we can say that it's wrong, we can call it all kinds of names, and yet it is what it is. You know, I took a landmark class, a beginning class with landmark, and it is very much what we teach here. And they have a question, and they have people come up and answer it, and nobody got it right. And it's, you know, what is life? You know, what's the meaning of life? And everybody was coming up either with deep meanings, they were quoting great scholars, the meaning of life, and everybody was going on, and all the instructor would do would say, no, next. Nope, that's not right either. And I'm thinking, I'm not getting up there. Life doesn't have a meaning. Life just is. We assign meaning to life by how we respond to it. And I want you to really think about that life doesn't have a meaning on its own. Life just happens. What does that sound like? God just says yes. It never stops us from saying, you know, you might not want to do that. If I've set the intention to do something and I am going bullheaded straight ahead, and I'm not listening to my intuition, I'm not listening to that still small voice within me, life is going to let me do that. Because life is God, and you know, it is God. And for us to constantly push against it, thinking it should be different when it just is. 2020 should be different. We would wish it were different. Every single one of us would wish 2020 were different, and it's not. And so then the opportunity for each and every one of us is, how do I spiritually grow within this? What is mine to do during this fabulous opportunity for us to grow spiritually? It's a great opportunity. Regardless of how you look at it, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, it doesn't matter. It's life. And so how are you responding to it? Are you going deeper into spiritual practice, deeper into that connection with the divine, so that you can understand at a deep, deep level that, in my opinion, I signed up for this. And I don't mean I signed up for this as minister, although, wow, what a great opportunity to be a minister. I don't mean that. I just mean all of us, in my opinion, we all chose to be here. And so there was part of us probably before we chose to be here that our spirit guides were saying, really? Have you seen 2020? you might want to reconsider. And yet every single one of us in this room said, nope, I'm ready. And so now is an opportunity to deal with that I'm ready. I am ready. Because her fourth immutable law of spirit is, it's over when it's over and not before. And that, I think, is the most powerful law of all. That all of this, we will get through all of this, and we'll get through it together, and it probably won't be on our time. I don't know about you. I think remember, I don't have a lot of patience. So probably right around April 1st, I was like, okay, I'm done. Let's move on. Could life please go back to what I considered life to be normal? And yet, is this not normal? Right? Is this not normal? This is our life. We're normal, so this is normal right now. This is our normal. It's not a new normal. It's just normal. It's how we have chosen to be in this given moment as a collective consciousness. And so I invite you to think about those 4 laws. Because Ernest Holmes, in The Ideas of Power, says, life, you can call it God, call it anything you want. There is something present with us and in us, out of whose essence all things are made, within whose creative imagination all things are formed, and by whose inexorable and immutable laws all things are held in place. This is self-evident. Here we are, and we couldn't be here if these things were not true. And so I don't know if you know anything about the Stoics. The Stoics were a religious belief back in the 3rd century. And they believed that sages, and so I want to own up to the fact now as I go through these, I'm not a sage yet because some of these I still push up against. But sages have these inherent beliefs within them. And so I'd like to talk to you about those because they're very much what we teach here. And the first one is events don't upset you. Your beliefs upset you. Now that, in and of itself, can be a pretty hard pill to swallow. I want you to think about that. It's not the event. It's your belief in the event. It's not the thing that's upsetting you. It's the belief that Karen should treat me differently. And Karen may not want to treat me differently. And so I've got a belief and I get upset. Is that Karen's fault? No, it's my fault because I believe differently. And to look at all the events in your life and to really look at what's my core belief around this event. That something should be different, right? And I was in a class this week and they talked about that, about complaining. I don't know about you. I can complain about almost anything when I choose. And they talked about complaining in the sense that you complain because you know there is a different way to be. Do any of you ever complain about gravity? You know why? There's no other way to be. We have to live in gravity, right? So we don't complain about it. Do any of you complain about your kids, your spouse, the traffic, the sun, the weather? It's too hot, it's too cold, it rains too much, it's 100 degrees in Seattle. Oh my God, we hate that. We complain because we know there's something different. And so just to really own the fact it's not the event, it's your belief on how it should be. And so if you really want to be happy, it's an opportunity to change your belief. Or maybe if you can't change your belief, to soften it. The second one is control what you can and ignore the rest. And what I have come to realize recently is that means give up a lot of control. Because we don't really have a lot of control of anything. You know, I have control over when I drive my car, how fast I choose to go. I have control over that. But most things, I don't have control of the other cars on the freeway with me. I don't have control when I come up to a stoplight, if it's green or if it's red or if it's yellow. It just is. And so control what you can. One of the things you can never control are other people. Gosh, I wish that weren't true. I have some people I would really, really like to control. However, when I met my husband, we had this agreement. We wouldn't tell each other what to do. He caught me at a weak moment. And it works. It works when you realize he gets to be who he wants to be, and I get to be who I want to be. And that works for the two of us. The third one is you need to learn to accept everything, right? Need to accept everything. Don't be passive about it. If you don't like something, right, you need to accept that that is the reality. And if you don't like something about it, then you need to change yourself around that issue. It gets back to, in Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles. He said the very first principle, and he said it's the most important principle there is, and I think there's 60 some odd principles in the book. Take 100% responsibility for your life. And if you look at, well, that I can't take responsibility for that, act as if you can. I have no control over the smoke that's going on around me right now. Right? What do you mean take 100% responsibility for that? My responsibility in that is, how am I going to protect myself from the smoke? Am I going to ignore the smoke is there and just go out willy-nilly and breathe in all the particles? Or am I going to wear a mask, or am I going to stay inside? That's where I get to take 100% responsibility. If I am in a relationship, which I have been in the past, and the person is physically abusive, everybody would want to blame the person, right? I'm at choice. 100% responsibility is get out of the relationship. And if you've ever been in that relationship, I will tell you, people that haven't think it's easy. And you have to understand, nobody gets hit that isn't already not thinking that they're worthy, right? They don't pick people to abuse that feel they're worthy and in a strong place. They pick people that feel they're unworthy, and then they slowly start to build them full of fear. And finally, you're very fearful of your oppressor. So please don't ever say, I don't understand why that person stayed in that relationship. Unless you've been in one, you will never understand what it's like to live through that. And yet, to take 100% responsibility is to finally put your foot down and say, I'm done. I am done. And I hope if there's anybody out there, if you need help getting out of a relationship like that, please let me know. The fourth one is choose whose child you will be. I'm going to read this because I think I've told the story before, and I think it's powerful to read. And it's called The Two Wolves. One evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside all people. He said, my son, the battle is between two wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other is good. It is joy, peace, hope, love, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandson thought. He thought about it for about a minute, and then he said to his grandfather, "Grandfather, which wolf wins?" And the grandfather responded, "The one you feed." So we go all the way back to the beginning of what I said. What you give is what you get. Which wolf are you feeding in your life? Because that's the wolf that is showing up, that everybody sees. And then the last one is, the last two actually, they go hand in hand. They were really wonderful, the Stoics, about morning and evening rituals. They always had them. Whether it be to meditate in the morning and do gratitudes at night, whatever it was, every day they had a ritual to start their day and they had a ritual to end their day. And the last one is they were big, big believers in gratitude. To always be grateful. Always be grateful. Even in the midst of chaos. Even in the midst of that huge pile of poo. I believe that there's going to be more than just a pony when 2021 comes along. I think that there is a whole bevy of horses in there coming out to greet us. And so hang in there, have faith, and remember, what you give is what you get. Let's pray. And I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to try and not try, you either do or you don't. So I'm going to pray a little bit different for those that are science of mind people that learned their prayer technique in United Centers for Spiritual Living. And I have a new prayer partner who grew up or found this philosophy, and she was a religious science international practitioner and minister. And how they pray differently than us is that they still use the steps. However, when they're praying for someone else, because we're all one, they recognize the one and then they speak in the I. Because if we're all one and I am clearing my consciousness of what needs to be cleared, then I don't have to worry about constantly naming the other person. They will feel that energy. And so let's just breathe in together. And as we do so, let's recognize the Father, the Mother, the Spirit, that is the truth of who we are right here and right now. Every single one of us, even that aphid, that parasite, fruit flies, every living organism is God, because as Ernest Holmes used to say, there is not a spot that God is not. It's in the air we breathe. It's in the beat of our heart. It's in the blood as it courses through this human container of God as us. It knows no time. It is all present, ever present. And so because I know we all live in that one mind of the divine, I speak my word now. And what I know to be true is that that one life that is God's life is me. That I am that container of good that is God, that ever-present vibration. And so as I open up to this brand new week, I promise myself, as I promise that divine presence, I'll do better. I'll choose to recognize and to know all the people present around me. I'll realize that everything that is happening in my life is happening exactly as it should and when it should. I will try my best or know my best. That all is well and all is exactly as it should be. And then as I give praise to that which always has been and always will be, I know that this too shall pass, and yet when it's over, it's over. Not before, not because I want it to be. There is a thing called divine right planning and divine right action, and so I turn all of this, I turn all of it over to that divine presence. I turn over the pandemic. I turn over the separation of our country. I turn over the divisions that we have that we are finding hard to speak about. I turn over the fires and the smoke. I turn it all over and promise I will be a better person in the midst of all of that. I will show up as love. I will show up with a compassionate heart. I will show up as the eye of the storm, the calm in the midst of a sea of chaos. As I know it for myself, I know it for everyone here in the sound of my voice. So I just say thank you, God. Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Spirit, for this knowing, for this grace, for this way to be in the world right here and right now. And so I release these words. I release them into that infinite law of good that is God, knowing it's absorbed and acted upon immediately, for the divine says yes. And in that yes, together we let go. Together we let God. And together we say, and so it is. Please welcome back to the stage Christine S. Young.